broken, although I'm not worthy. You fix me, though I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me, Lord. I'm broken, though I'm not worthy. You fix me, though I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me.
I'm blinded by your grace. I'm blinded by your grace. I'm blinded, oh yeah. I'm blinded by your grace. I'm blinded by your grace. Yeah, I'm blinded by your grace. I'm blinded, yeah, I'm blinded by your grace. By your grace.
Good afternoon, Omega Radio listeners. This is yours truly, Authencia Manning. And right about now, it is now time for the Youth Truth Show right here on Omega Radio, where I am your host. We're going to go ahead and get into things today. But before we do so, we are going to have a quick and brief song break. We're going to have a brief song break, and then we'll be right back. So I want you to stay tuned in. I want you to stay locked in. Call a friend, call a neighbor. Call your young people, your young adults, and let them know that the Youth Truth Show is on. And just to let you know, today we're going to be talking about patience. We're going to be talking about patience. So we're going to listen to this song here, and then we'll be right back for the Youth Truth Show. So don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. Stay locked into Omega Radio, and welcome to Youth Truth.
All right. Your hands to God and just bless Him in the Spirit. The secret is just to be intentional. Close your eyes and call Him those names. Come on, call Him Daddy as loud as you can. I can't hear you. Call Him Daddy as loud as you can. Come on, call Him, call Him, call Him, call Him, call Him, call Him, call Him. You are my daddy, and your baby is singing. I will be singing and dancing and shouting for the rest of eternity. My daddy, your baby is singing. I will be singing and dancing and shouting for the rest of eternity. You are my daddy. Your baby is screaming. I will be singing and dancing. Let's hear some solo on that.
My Jesus, your beloved is singing. I will be singing and shouting and chanting for the rest of eternity. My daddy, your baby is singing. Daddy, I'll come on stage. I will be singing and shouting and chanting for the rest
All right, listeners. So for those of you just now tuning in, this is yours truly, Authencia Manning, and I'm here today as your host for the Youth Truth Show every Saturday from 4:15 to 5 p.m. right here on Omega Radio. The goal of the Youth Truth Show is to empower, encourage, and motivate today's youth because they are tomorrow's leaders, but it's also more than that. And it's not just for young people or just for youth, just for children, just for young adults. A little bit of something is there for everybody. So everybody can get a little something from this program, or at least that's the intentions of it, right? But we're going to go ahead and jump into things today. So thank you to those of you who are tuning in, and I do hope that you're enjoying today's program so far as the music. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about patience. And that's something that one, of course, we know it's important, but two, it's more than it being important. It's just something that we really need to focus on, something that we really need to stress upon, that we tend to try and receive things based on our timing. We tend to try and, get things from God in a way and means that works with our timing, with what's accessible and meaningful for us. But that's not how things are supposed to work. What's supposed to happen is we pray, we go to God and we seek God for what it is that we are asking for, and then we wait. And then after the waiting period is when we receive what we prayed for, right? Because we know already that, the Bible has told us that God is telling us that he will grant us the desires of our heart. So whatever it is that we need, we will have. He's also told us in another verse that what we need to succeed in this life, he has given it to us. So going back to praying and saying, God, I'm looking for this, and waiting, receiving. A lot of times we skip over that waiting period because we don't like to wait. And I think it's just a human thing. It's just a human mindset, a human mentality, just to not like to wait. We want things and we want them right away. We want them at that moment. We want them right then in that second. We don't want to wait. We expect that because God is God and he is who he says he is, the I am that I am, et cetera, that when we talk to God and we say, God, this is what I am seeking you for, this is what I want, this is what I need, that we will get it right in that moment because he is God. And God is able to do that. He is able to give it to us right away. However, God is going to give us what we need when we need it, not when we want it. He'll give us what we want, but only when we need it, if that makes sense. So there were three different things I said just now. He's going to give us what we need when we need it. He's not going to give us what we want when we want it, but he's going to give us what we want when we need it. So, and that's something that relates back and correlates back directly to patience. We have to have patience. It's very important that we have patience as children of God. Why is it important? Why is it important that we have patience? Because first and foremost, patience is so important that it's one of the fruits of the Spirit, right? It's one of the fruits of the Spirit. And it's so important that we take the time to acknowledge the importance of having patience. When you're patient, God is able to give you things. Now, let's pause on that. Before I finish that statement, let's go a different direction, right? So what is faith? Faith is the evidence of things hoped for, but not seen. So you don't see it, but you believe for it. You believe in it anyways. So having faith in God, we haven't actually seen God in a physical way that we see each other, but we know that he's real. We know that he exists. We know what he's capable of, and we believe in him. We don't need any proof of existence because God is who he is, and we believe that for who he is. We don't need proof because we know who God is for who he is. So relating that now, connecting that back to the statement that I was making before about the importance of patience. And why does patience and faith correlate? Why do they relate to each other? The reason why you need to have patience is because God has already promised us what we need, and he's promised us the desires of our heart. He has told us that he will grant it to us. However, if we think that we are capable of having a better understanding of timing than God does, God, as I've said before, God is in the humbling business. He is in the business of humbling people. So when we think that we can one up God and we can overstep God, overrule God's word, overrule God's voice, overrule God's instruction, God's not going to sit there and say, I told you not to do this. Although we are his children, he is our father. God is not going to sit there and say, I told you not to do this. I told you not to do that. Instead, what will happen is he's going to let us learn. He's going to let us learn. He's going to let us experience. He said, okay, you want to do it your way? Fine. I will be here when you realize the error of your actions, the wrongdoing, the wrong choices that you have made. I will be here once you figure that out. But in the process of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to make your mistakes, because your mistakes are what I'm going to use to teach you how to trust in me, to teach you how to have faith in me, to teach you how to have patience and rely on me. God is the ruler of our lives. He should be at the forefront. He should never be behind where we think that we are leading. We cannot lead. God has the blueprint and the rule book, the guidelines for life. He knows every single aspect of what we are, what position we are in now, what position we can be in tomorrow, what position we can be in next month, next year, and so on and so on. God knows where we are now, where we are going, and where we need to go before we even understand any of those things. So it's important that when it comes to just, okay, you prayed to God and you said, I want this, I want this, I want this, that you understand the idea and concept of God's timing. It doesn't operate on our timing. Even though it tells us in Genesis, that God created the heavens and the earth, he did all of that work in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. Who said that 6 days or 7 days in this case is the same time frame as what 6 to 7 days is for us? So 1 day for us is 24 hours. But who told you that that is the same for God? And so the reason why I bring that up is to say that we often think that God needs to work on our timing. Our timing is not God's timing. God's timing is the elite timing. It's above anything that we can comprehend, anything that we can understand, because it wasn't made for us. We operate on God's time, not our time. So we have to be patient in that season of waiting. God has told us he'll grant us the desires of our heart. He will give us the things that we need. He will give us the things that we want, so long as we seek his face for it. We live our lives for him. We do what he's requiring us to do. We walk in our purpose. We walk in our calling, and we walk with the God-given authority that he's given us. As long as we do what God is requiring us to do, he will give us what we are asking for and what we need. So in addition to what we need, God will give us what we're asking for, the things that we are desiring. So it's important that we have patience in that season of waiting, because God has already told us he's going to give it to us. So who are we to rush God? Who are we to say, God, I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. I don't want it tomorrow. I don't want it later. I don't want it in an hour. I don't want it next week, next month, next year. I want it right this second. We cannot do that. Our will does not outweigh the will of God. Our will does not outweigh the will of the Father. So we have to seek God's face, trust him, believe in him, have faith in him without ceasing, and trust that he's going to give us the desires of our heart. He's going to give us the things that we want. And then better yet, in addition to that, if you were praying to God, we all are praying to God, right? But in this specific scenario, you're praying to God and you were praying for confirmation on something, because a lot of times as children of God, we seek God to make our decisions. So we don't make our decisions on our own. We allow God to make our decisions, which is a good way of thinking, a good way of living, a good way of decision making. So you seek God, you went to God and you said, God, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm facing. This is what's going on. Should I do this or should I do that? Should I allow this or should I allow that? So on and so forth. You speak to God and you get you request the confirmation from God for direction. You request direction, you request guidance, you request confirmation, and God's going to give it to you. And then sometimes when you get it, you're just like, wow, okay. Because you just got so excited with the news that you received from God, that you felt, and you felt it confirmed in your spirit, that now you want to rush that process because you got told something that just really made you extremely happy. It excited you in a way that you didn't think you could be excited. And so you began to say, you know what? All right, God already confirmed it for me. But now that I have the confirmation, I kind of want it right now. I don't want to wait for it. I don't want to be patient. I don't want to just take my time and go through this waiting period. I want it right now. What can I do to rush this process? And you begin to do things that you were never intended to do. You begin to try and rush a process that was never intended to be rushed. God's timing is better than your timing. So where you are rushing into a situation prematurely, if you chose to do what God told you to do and you chose to wait and have patience, God was aligning you and aligning different pieces in your life in order to perfectly, maturely place you into the situation where he gave you that confirmation. So the reason why patience is important is because when you're in that season of waiting, where God has you waiting for something that you asked for, or waiting for something that he confirmed that he's going to give to you, which is with everything, right? God has told us he will grant us the desires of our heart, and he will give us the things that we need. So when you're in that season of waiting for something that you asked for, something that you need, you have to be patient, because without patience, you will go into something prematurely and make immature, childish, and foolish decisions and foolish choices. So you have to acknowledge the fact that God has already promised you what you're asking for, and now be comfortable enough to wait on God to come through with that promise, because he's going to, but you have to trust him. You have to believe in him. You have to believe his word and believe that when God says it is so, it is so. You don't expect that, because he said it is so at today, that means that tomorrow it's not going to be so as yet, or that it is going to be so, or whatever the case is. Don't begin to try and imagine that you can comprehend God's timing and exactly what move he's making at what time in your life. Don't begin to tell yourself that you have the ability to comprehend God's timing better than God does, because you can't. We can't. We were not created for that. But on the flip side, we are told that we are to trust God, that we are to have patience, and to never lose patience. Because once we lose patience, we begin to try and do things prematurely. We begin to make decisions that cause us to go into situations that we were never supposed to be in, had we just been patient and waited and trusted God. So we all know that when it comes to patience, it's a very, very negative time for some people, for most people, because we don't like to wait. We want things when we want them, and we're used to that. That when we want it, we can have it right away. You know, that if we want something, we can get it. We don't have to wait. However, we don't like the waiting period, but think of the reward. Think of what happens when you wait. So imagine that you went to God for something, and this is the same as you ordering a product off of Amazon or Fashion Nova or Shein or Nike or wherever. You ordered a package, you ordered something, and now you know for certain that that is confirmed. You placed a request and you paid for it. So you know you have the confirmation that what you asked for is what you are going to get. But now you have to wait. You have to wait for the shipping time. You have to wait for it to be sent off to the packaging facility, and then from the packaging facility to the delivery facility, and from the delivery facility to the carrier, and then the carrier is going to distribute it to your delivery driver, who's going to deliver it to your home. So that process of waiting, right? At that point, that whole time of waiting for your package to come, you know that it's been paid for. It's confirmed that you're going to get it. But now you're waiting for that shipping number. You know, you're waiting for all of that. That is the same as when you're waiting on God to give you what he's confirmed to you. He's given it to you. He's promised it to you. But more than that, he's now requiring you to wait. And he's already given you the confirmation. So if you're able to be calm and content and wait for a package, why can't we be calm and content and wait for what we ask God for? That he's promised us and that he's confirmed to us that we will receive. So if he's told us that we're going to receive it, just like we know Fashion Nova told us we're going to receive that dress, why can't we wait on God to say, okay, here you go. But we can wait for when Fashion Nova delivers it with UPS and say, here you go. It's the same thing. We have to be patient. We don't like to wait for our packages to come. We want our packages to come right away. That's why we go to Amazon Prime and we try and prime that the delivery and get it right away, get it overnight or get it in one day, whatever the case may be. We try to rush that shipping process. We try to expedite the shipping because we don't like to wait. But it's the same thing when going to God and seeking God for something. You just have to wait, and you have to be content with your waiting period because the reward is greater than anything that you can do. Your decision making that you can make, that you can choose to do, that will take you on a different path, a different direction than where God intended you to go because you were impatient. You chose to lack patience. You chose to not wait, and you chose to try and get it by any means on your own without God, away from God, and not through God. What happened? Now you ended up somewhere that you shouldn't have been. You ended up on a path where you should not have been. You end up in a direction that you should not have been because you chose to do it your way. We just have to be patient. We just have to be patient. Being patient is not a easy thing to do, and I know that. And I'm not trying to express and say that it's such an easy thing to do because we don't like to wait. It's human nature. We don't like to wait. We want things when we want it, which is why we have expedited shipping. However, in the same instance, in the same case, we have to teach ourselves to be comfortable with the waiting period because what comes after the waiting period is the reward. It's what you asked for. It's what God promised you. It's what he confirmed that you will have. So even though the waiting period might be hard, you probably will cry sometimes, you break down sometimes because things are just not going the way that you believe that they should be going, but you trust God. So you can cry, you can shed tears, you can feel down a little bit, but you got to shake it off and continue to trust God. And something that I kind of really like to rely on when it comes to patience is where it tells us in the Bible to pray without ceasing. Right? Pray without ceasing. If you ever feel yourself at a point where you're just feeling down and out, you're not feeling good, you're feeling the worst of the worst, at the lowest of lows, you know that God confirmed something for you, but you don't see it happening yet. Or you prayed to God for something, but you don't see it manifesting in front of you yet. Just go to God and pray. The best thing you can do is pray because you don't want to get caught up in trying to make decisions on your own, that you go and you make choices and you take yourself on a path that you were never supposed to be on. You go and you try and get it by any means necessary and you refuse to wait and you try to expedite the process that you end up with something that you were never intended to have, or you end up somewhere you were never intended to be, and so on and so forth. So when you feel yourself at that point where you've prayed to God for something, but you don't see it happening yet, you've prayed to God about something and he's giving you the confirmation, but you don't see it happening yet, just go and pray again. There's never a limit to how often you can pray and speak to God. So like I said, pray without ceasing. Just keep on praying. Keep on praying. You just keep praying. When you pray for something one time, pray again. God, I trust that you're making a way. You're fixing things, you're arranging things, and you're shifting things into place. And I place it all in your hands. You have to learn to trust God in a way that requires you to just put it all in his hands and take the load off of you, because you don't have nothing to worry about. Once you place something in God's hands and you pray to God about it, you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have anything to stress about because God is working on your behalf. So in the midst of that, you have to choose to just continue to wait, continue to have patience, and continue to trust God. So pray without ceasing. Just keep on praying. You prayed for something already. God told you you're going to get it. He didn't tell you when. That's fine. You don't need to know the when. You don't need to know the how. You don't need to know the details because God knows the details. And if God knows the details, then it's for sure yours. It's for sure going to happen. So you just have to trust him. You just have to have faith, and you just have to have patience. They relate and they correlate with each other. They are connected, and you just have to have faith and patience in all things. And if you feel yourself becoming anxious, you feel yourself becoming weary, you feel yourself becoming tired of waiting, go and talk to God. You feel yourself breaking down slowly, go talk to God. You feel yourself sinking into yourself because you're sinking into your mind, you're sinking into the thoughts, the negative thoughts that are coming at you, Go and talk to God. That's all you have to do. Just go and talk to him, and he will give you the comfort that you need in order for you to get back on track and continue to trust him and continue to be patient, because he's already given it to you. He's already promised it to you. You just have to wait. So whatever it is that you're seeking God for, whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you've prayed to him about and he's confirmed for you, the best advice that I can give you today is to read your word, trust God, have faith, and be patient. Be patient. Be very, very patient, because it's going to happen. It's going to come. It's going to be given to you, but you just have to be patient. You just have to be patient and rely solely on God. It's so important that we do that. So important. So I want to leave you with that today, just that to have patience. God has told us that we can come to him with whatever it is that we want, whatever it is that we need, and we can ask him for it, and he will give it to us. He will grant us the desires of our heart. I've repeated that over and over and over, because sometimes we forget that God has already told us that he will give us what we desire. But we have to believe it's already done. If you go to God and ask God for something and you don't believe that you're going to get it, even though he told you you're going to get it, you can't expect that you're going to get it, because faith is a strong part in that process. Believing that you're going to get it, or believing that you already have it, even though you don't see it yet, is a strong part in that process. So in that period of waiting, you have to have strong and movable faith. So I just want to encourage you today, for those of you listening, just to be humble, be patient, trust God, have faith in him, and just wait. The waiting period is bitter. It doesn't feel good. It's not the best of the best. You don't like to be in that period all the time, but that's fine, because the result is far greater than anything that you can choose to do, that you can choose, any decision that you can choose to make to try and get it on your own. Don't try and get it on your own. Just trust God and allow God to do it. When we try and do things on our own, we're always going to fail. Even when it seems like we're not failing, we're still going to fail. Even when it seems like things are shifting in the right direction, they're going to magically all of a sudden change overnight, and you're going to wonder what happened. You tried to do it on your own. So stop trying to get it on your own by any means necessary, and just trust God. Just trust God and allow him to work. Allow him to do what he's told us that he's going to do. Allow him to make a way where you can't see the way. You just have to be patient. You just have to have faith and be patient in this process. It's very important to do that. So I want to leave you with that today, to trust in God, have faith, be patient, and know that he's working it out on your behalf. So that was a topic for today's segment of the YouTube show. It's just an encouragement, really, just to tell you to have patience. And whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you're seeking God for, he's going to give it to you. You just need to have patience. You just need to trust in him and just have patience. So we're going to close off for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do hope that you enjoyed today's segment, and you'll tune in next week, Saturday, at the same time of 4:15 to 5 p.m. right here on Omega Radio. So thank you so much to all of you tuning in. Once again, hope that you were blessed and that you enjoyed today's programming. I'll leave you with this. Have faith, have patience, trust God, and continue to pray without ceasing, and everything will work out in your favor. Until next week, bye-bye.